this was a turn I was not expecting for the channel. I mean, we are approaching Valentine's Day, so I thought reviewing something romantic was to be expected, but not to this type of level. Well, there's no time like the present, so Mum, in case you are watching, please forgive me. Everyone else, this is HuniePop.
So, yeah, as I stated earlier, because we are currently in the month of love, it would make sense to look at a game like this. But considering its nature that I'm sure a lot of you already know, I wasn't too sure if I was able to go through with what it had to offer. And not just the base stuff, but also the extras in order to fully confirm to yourself a mostly completed run through.
Well, since here I am talking about it, I think it's pretty clear of where I fit on that level of structure now, doesn't it?
So anyway, HuniePop was created by Ryan Coons under the alias of HuniePot, who launched a Kickstarter campaign with a minimum goal of $20,000, which of course ended successfully, as you probably couldn't tell. With Mr. Coons, alongside the assistance of Ritsuki Professor as visual artist and Jonathan Wandag as musical composer, the crew worked together to create a dating sim / match-3 puzzle game. And yes, I am labeling it as a match-3 game. Candy Crush isn't the only game in existence that does this formula, you fucking morons! Thus giving it the title of HuniePop, released on PC and Mac in January of 2015. The game, as you can no doubt tell from its design, was a massive success, with critics praising it for its strangely addicting and humorous charm, and plentiful YouTubers making let's play of it on their channels. Which was actually how I got introduced to this game, all thanks to the expressive but often quite loud personality that is Jacksepticeye. And after watching his series of videos and enjoyed playing it as much as I loved watching his reaction to it, I figured I should give it a go as well, despite already seeing a large chunk that wouldn't surprise me.
The thing is though, at the time, I was mostly a console player and didn't have a budgeted PC, even though the specs to run HuniePop isn't really that demanding. This is also where I got my experiences in PC gaming started, as it encouraged me to set up my own Steam page just so I can play the game myself. And yes, I did become aware that the Steam version of this game was mildly censored, but I did follow the link to download a patch that would allow me to view all the images in their glorious uncensored fashion. So with the sequel currently in development and expecting a release later on this year, it too would make sense to look at this game in its entirety, so without further ado, let's get into this. And yes, I just realised what I just said.
Jesus, what am I getting myself into? Well anyway, the game begins with you in a bar, where you meet this cute girl who introduces herself as Q. As you attempt to make the moves on her, with very poor effort mind you, she begins to question your current state, but then immediately pulls a 180 and insists that you'll meet her again soon. Then she leaves. Well, that's one way of hitting up somebody, I guess. Suddenly a pink fairy!
Hey you, rise and shine, we've got work to do!
As you appear to be sleeping back at your place, you are then interrupted by this pink-haired woman who turns to be none other than Q, who we met earlier. She then begins to explain that she is in fact a love fairy, a being from another world who is tasked to help unsuccessful earthlings to go out with beautiful ladies. She then informs the player that you are a sackless piece of shit who can't go on dates, and forces you without questioning to learn the ropes about dating. After a relatively quick tutorial session, you are then presented a device that Q gives you known as the Honeybee, essentially a phone-like gadget that features tons of options on your quest to score some chicks, including info on girls you meet, and can pinpoint the location.
So basically, it's a Pokédex for women. And part stalking device.
After spending a bit of time getting to know your new piece of tech, you are then set out into the world to find attractive women to meet, get to know, and go on dates with, in the hopes of not remaining as a virgin for the rest of your life. The game's story, if you can call it that, is almost non-existent. Despite when starting off and meeting women for the first time, not a whole lot progresses for the following narrative. You pretty much just find the girl you want, talk with her for a bit, go on dates with her, find a different woman to talk to, and the cycle repeats itself over and over again until you get lucky enough to... well, more on that later. I can see where Mr. Coons was going about this. The fact that it seems a game like this doesn't really need much story. Even the game admits that it's not the reason why you play HuniePop, but still, it would have been nice to have a bit more going on in between the dates to give it more flavour and content to add more suspense when going out with these girls. This essentially becomes more apparent as you begin to know more about a select few girls, as some of them are actually related to one another, and some have secrets that you'll begin to unravel the more you talk to them, as well as noticing in the way they react when performing certain actions. Now that's not to say the girls you meet are any less interesting, no. Each of the 8 girls you meet all have distinctive personalities that make them interesting enough to interact and potentially build a connection with, but they also have particular traits that make them stand out more than just becoming stereotypes of stereotypes. As for favourites, well, I do have a couple. Whenever I see someone's Let's Play or a Best Girls list video, a lot of people like to place Aiko as one of their favourites, and whilst I can understand their own taste in women, she honestly came off as a bit grim and not that all interesting to me. Now Kiana, on the other hand, she was more my cup of tea. Her highly positive and proactive attitude just struck to me almost instantly, and the fact that she's a single mother to a 1-year-old baby just shows how hard-working and responsible she's trying to make herself become. As for Audrey though, man, she was a mouthful. Originally I thought I wouldn't like her considering how much of a mega bitch she is, and that's how they actually refer to her, I didn't just make that up. But as we chatted more and more, I realised because of her wild nature, she can actually be pretty humorous from time to time, even though some of the things she says can get a little out of hand.
So what? Am I supposed to blow you now? Get real.
But if I had to pick my top 3 girls, they would be Tiffany, Belly, and of course, Nikki. A lot of people would admit that Tiffany is one of the least interesting girls considering how simple and generic she appears to be, but honestly, sometimes the best ones are the most normal and vanilla looking. You see, the type of women that I seem to favour the most are the ones that go down the line of innocent and sweet, and Tiffany is no exception, with her being one of the nicest girls you can chat to, and the fact that she goes to college and takes her education lifestyle serious is something I can admire. That and the fact that one of the other girls you can date is actually her fucking mum, which she has a vendetta towards, by the way, along with her guiltily catchphrase that is,
What's shaking, bacon?
Belly. Man, there is no other good-hearted and compassionate woman I think I have ever encountered like her. She might be the one I connect with the most as well. Things like trying to resist unhealthy food but keep failing, the fact that she favours certain activities like yoga and meditation is something I can agree with, and out of all the girls, her personal questions are the ones I can answer to without trying not to be myself. She is just a pleasure to be with. Lastly, there is Nikki, who it turns out to be is also one of the most popular choices with her being a gamer girl and all that, something I, along with a lot of people, find attractive as well. True, her low experience in socializing and shyness may turn off a few people, but I don't care. As long as you take the time to understand her, then she is just as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable, to hang around with compared to the other girls.
So there is one other girl I like a lot, but that's during the second half of this game, which I'll save up on mentioning a little later.
Whilst we're on the topic of how attractive the girls are, now would be a good chance to talk about the presentation. As you can no doubt tell, the visual style they chose to go with is good old anime. Everything is well crafted and very colourful. The girls themselves are also drawn nicely, despite the fact that they only have one stance when talking to them, but it almost completely makes up for it with exceptional lip syncing and multiple facial expressions, even if it can look a little stiff sometimes. With that in mind, the soundtrack is also phenomenal, mixing a blend of light pop jingles and bossa nova tunes that gives the overall experience a truly romantic and even flirty theme to it, which matches very well to the scenarios and events that take place throughout the game. As explained before, the personalities these girls provide to bring their variety of personalities and styles make them really stick out to bring a different ideal mood to the table, for better or worse I suppose, depending on your preferences of course. So, as you can probably no doubt tell by the footage, HuniePop is a combination of a dating sim and a puzzle game, with some light RPG elements thrown into the mix. Whenever you meet a new girl for the first time or track them down with your Honeybee device, you enter this screen where you have multiple options to interact with them. You can check their profile so you can view their preferences in desired traits, favourite kinds of gifts and food, as well as favourite drink and alcohol tolerance, because of course your memory is just too bad to remember yourself. This feature can also store the ghost's details, which you can find out by talking to them in the hopes of asking them questions like their age, occupation, favourite place to hang out, and yes, even their cup size, because that's just a normal thing you want to ask a girl you've known for a couple of seconds and... Really, Ryan? You didn't recheck on that part? Well, let's just hope there isn't another incident like that in the sequel, right? Cool. Sometimes they will ask you questions about various topics that relate to their personality, and it's your job to pick the right answer that they favour the most, clearly showing to us that you can't just be yourself when dating anybody. And on occasions, they will ask you if you remember certain details you've already asked about themselves. This can sometimes lead to an idiotic situation where they could be asking the very detail that you just asked them about, as if they think you're a fucking moron or something. When talking to these girls, however, you must keep an eye on their hunger meter, as every time you talk to them, the meter will deplete, and when it's empty, you can't talk to them or go on a date with them until you give them something to eat. Greedy bitches. That's where the gift shop comes in. In this menu, you can select between a wide variety of items to purchase, with a select few showing a star or heart next to it that represents the kind of item the girl you're talking to prefers. Q even states that she pretty much does all the work for you, which makes me question on certain occasions. What's the point? The profiles clearly state what the girl's like, so why even bother showing an icon? Because unless you're an idiot Let's Player who doesn't take the time to realise, you have very little chance at failing to understand. Anyway, this can range from purchasing food, drinks to get them hammered, which reward you with extra honey points when talking, more on those in a minute, and gift items which can either give you more honey points as well, or get an exchange from Q who gives you a present which contains a random date gift you can use when going out with the girls. Speaking of which, I think now would be a good time to segue into what is essentially the second half of this game, and that's the dating sequences. In order to earn enough money to buy anything, as well as getting the affection rate of the girls you like to rise up, you'll need to go on dates with them, in which they'll never refuse from unless, once again, they are too hungry to do anything. And not to mention, this whole thing seems kind of arse backwards, doesn't it? Because realistically, you would be losing money when dating rather than gaining it, but whatever, let's roll with it. So I'm guessing the psychiatric behaviour during these dates are all based around your skills in puzzle games, as your objective is to fill the meter at the bottom before running out of moves. And surprisingly, there are a lot of things to be aware about in order to come out with the best outcome. Firstly, the obvious way to score points is to match up 3 to 5 tokens of the same colour to earn affection. The 4 main coloured tokens represent the traits that girls favour more or less.
The orange ones represent romance, blue is talent, green is flirtation, and red is sexuality.
So one of the tricks you can look out for is to know what traits certain girls prefer and match those type of tokens in the best way you can put together. Aside from that, there are other tokens during these matches that have their perks. Pink-hearted tokens, when matched, will raise your passion level, which in basic terms acts as a multiplier, so the more higher the level, the more affection points you get. The bell tokens are without a doubt one of the most important ones, as they simply give you more moves when matched, which is why most of the time whenever I see a possible combination, I try to make the bells my top priority. But also, the broken heart tokens are just as cautious, since when matched, they will actually drain your affection meter down, and I can't even tell you the number of times I accidentally let these tokens match and get scolded by the woman I'm dating, all because I wasn't being careful enough. Finally, the last token to mention is the teardrops, also known as sentiment tokens. These ones allow you to rack up the number of points you need in order to use the date gifts, as I mentioned before. This game has a large variety of date gifts you can collect that each have a required amount of sentiment to use, as well as having unique effects that can aid you when matching tokens. These can include turning the broken heart tokens into passion tokens, consuming all of a selected trait or type without even needing to match, or, one of my personal favourites, the perfume gifts, which can increase the amount of a certain trait of token as the date continues. So yeah, that's quite a lot to take in, but I can assure you, the more times you do these activities, the more you'll be able to understand them, and rightfully so, as this is the only way you'll get a chance to have it with one of these girls, and personally, these are probably the best part of the game for me. all ending with a cash reward as I said before, and if you are successful, can unlock new outfits for the girls to wear when talking to them, which in combination to the different hairstyles you can also unlock, can lead to displaying delicate to even interesting and kinky options for you to look at. And hell, you can make characters like Audrey look similar to Sia/Cruella de Vil. It's also worth mentioning that as you go along on your little journey, you can, on occasion, receive messages from the girls you dated who also attach photos of themselves, which are always a treat as most of them are quite cute to look at. But sometimes they like to step it up a notch and share some pretty extreme visuals that, depending on how sensitive you are to this kind of stuff, may leave you feeling, let's just say, intense. This is where the game gets mildly out of control. You see, once you've dated a girl enough times to get 4 out of 5 hearts of affection, Q then advises you to date that girl next at night, as you'll have a chance to bring her home if it ends in success. But by this point, you'll really need to make sure you're prepared with the right kind of gifts and upgraded traits. Oh shit, that's right, I nearly forgot. By talking to the girls and giving them gifts, you are rewarded with honey. Yes, with the way it's spelled, we are starting to enter Winnie the Pooh territory, but anyway, with the amount of honey you collect, you can use them to upgrade various traits that will help make the dates more manageable. This can range from earning more affection when matching particular tokens, to increasing the chances of power tokens falling that will score you extra points when matched. Now where was I? Oh yeah, right. So once you've selected your date gifts, upgraded your traits, and get that girl wasted with drinks, you can then head out with her on one last date, and if done successfully, you're greeted by, this.
I'm not that good, or whatever, so, yeah.
Oh boy. Well, as you can clearly see, we are thrown into a bonus round, where you finally have a chance to get it on with the girl. However, this time instead of strategically matching combos before running out of moves, the mechanics are completely changed as now you have to quickly match up as many tokens needed to fill the meter. And I do mean fast, as when you aren't doing anything, the meter drains by itself, essentially turning the whole thing into an accurate intercourse session, whilst you delightfully get to enjoy the constant noises of
Oh, yes!
And you just need to keep up with this adrenaline rush until...
Oh, jeez. Oh, God.
Jesus Christ. Well, after that rather eventful evening, you then wake up with your sweetheart in the morning, where you also have the luxury of owning the girl's panties she was wearing during the night. Oh wow, lucky you. At this point, you assume this is where it all ends, but nope. As soon as you're done with the girl you just slept with, Q suddenly shows up and then congratulates you on your sweet victory of no longer becoming a virgin. She even admits to being jealous of the situation and says this.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck it, I'm in.
That's right, Q, the love fairy who mentored you, is now available to talk, date, and fuck with. But the unlockable characters don't stop there, as at this point, there are also 2 other characters you can discover. The first one is done by buying a bag of fish, then going to an outdoor location, and then after tossing that item and leaving the current girl, suddenly cat go.
Excuse me. Did you drop these fishies here? If you don't want them, can I have them?
Nope, I am not kidding here. You can actually meet a girl who is also part cat named Momo, and you do just about anything you would do with other girls. For better or worse, let's just put that aside and check out the other girl, which is done by giving Q your stash of dirty magazines. She then gives you a weird device hinting that you should take this to the beach, at night time to be exact. Once again, once you're done chatting with the girl already there, you are then introduced to...
Hold it right there!
Is that an alien? Yep, indeed it is, and her name is Celeste. Remember when I said there was another girl that I favoured? This is that girl. She also falls into the talent category of preferred traits, and the questions she asks are all based around the solar system. Despite the fact that I'm not the brightest in this topic, her kind and knowledgeable nature is the main reason why she's one of my top girls.
Oh Jesus, how long have I been playing this now? I should probably seek for some medical attention.
Okay, well, let's try and wrap this up as quickly as possible. So, after sleeping with all the girls, you still have one final challenge, faced in the presence of... Palatina from the Kid Icarus series?
Venus, the goddess of love.
Oh, okay. So you'd expect the final girl to be the most difficult to succeed with. Well, it's true her gifts are probably the most expensive you can buy, but she really isn't that difficult, but that's mostly due to the upgrades and date gifts at this point. Finally, after taking part in the final 4 days, we have finally come to the very last fucking session of this game.
Come over here and claim your reward. I'm dripping with anticipation.
Yeah, let's just get this over with. At last, we have done all the girls, but Q then shows up and states there is one last thing to do. God damn it! Really, all it is to give Q all the panties you collected from all the girls, with one informing that the bitch Audrey was actually a virgin the whole time.
Oh.
So anyway, after giving all the panties to Q, you are then given access to Alpha Mode, which is nothing more than just locking the game to the hard difficulty and encouraging you to keep playing until you've unlocked everything to 100%. But I've already been through enough of this shit, so no thank you. And that's HuniePop, ladies and gentlemen. What more can I say that hasn't already been addressed? During the process of just reaching to the end with one of the girls has led to a guilty pleasure of a fun, over-the-top experience in which it's clearly aware of itself and doesn't hold back in the slightest. However though, after unlocking Q and attempting to finish with all the girls has shown to be a bit of a chore, mostly due to the fact that it really doesn't change a whole lot as you keep going. You're just doing the same thing over and over again until you're done or just get bored. Hence why I said before a little more story could have probably helped from its repetitiveness. Even though the sequel is already in the works at the moment, here are a few things I hope or wish to be improved / added in the final production. 1. The whole being a lot more in depth than just being a simple switch to a different girl with no added content thing. 2. Have more actual consequences and a more complex system when talking to the girls, since you don't really fail much when talking to them, with the exception of receiving less honey, but that's just not enough to me anyways. Last thing is in relation to the girls and the way they are animated. I understand sketching and drawing these girls must have taken a great amount of time, which I wholeheartedly respect, but maybe if they could give them a bit more expression, as in either having more movement or even different body poses, then I'd be satisfied enough. But from what I experienced already, HuniePop is a really funny, witty, and even challenging experience. The writing is spectacular, the soundtrack is wonderfully composed, and the visuals are very well crafted. Hell, I even went ahead and supported the team by purchasing the digital art collection as well.
For personalizing purposes? Oh shit.
Well, anyway, for an indie sensation that's been around for over 3 years, it's quite obvious of the kind of people that would get the most out of this game. But if you're looking for an experience that features a comical presence and also a bit of fun puzzle solving, HuniePop is something that I would recommend you at least give a shot at. Just prepare yourself for the extreme scenarios you'll encounter during your journey. Geez, I've been giving that same conclusion for a while now, haven't I? Well, with all that said, thank you for watching, take care, and happy Valentine's Day.